Camp is camp. It's tough, but it's for me to want to push myself. This is what I do, this is what I live for. I'm ready for battle. I feel like I'm getting stronger, and I feel by the time the fight comes, I'll be at peak performance.
One more. One more. Beautiful. Good. That's what we've got to bring him on to. Nobody can take them.
It's unbelievable how far and how wide sports can take you and the things that you get access to.
Anthony Joshua has officially begun his first day of training camp ahead of his showdown with Jake Paul, now targeted for December 19th. With the fight officially confirmed, Joshua is wasting no time sharpening his tools, stepping into camp with a laser-focused mindset and the confidence of a former heavyweight champion. Jake Paul, despite his controversial rise from YouTube celebrity to professional boxer, has proven he can generate massive attention, but this time, he faces a seasoned powerhouse with world-class experience.
Touchdown in Las Vegas, the second leg of the training camp. I'm feeling energized, I'm feeling refreshed. So yeah, come inside, have a look what's going on. Tough training, tough lifestyle, rough and tough. But listen, how else would I want it? I love it. So what am I bringing differently? I wouldn't say a new mindset, but definitely like a new perspective. But ultimately, everything new has to lead to a win. So yeah, that's what I'm focused on right now, just winning. With training camp, it's grueling, like there's no doubt about that, but you just need to have a clear mind and be optimistic and run towards challenges every day. And that's how I'm able to get through, is just the perspective I have on what suffering looks like. There's a certain standard that one has to have if they want to achieve certain things. I am working past efforts, measures that I set out for myself. Yes, it's tough. Yes, I'm tired. Yes, my body does feel it.
Mike Coppinger reported that the Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul fight is a done deal for December 2025 in Miami, and to be streamed on Netflix as a professional heavyweight bout.
Right, we mentioned earlier that Anthony Joshua still didn't have an opponent for his next fight, but he was thinking of still fighting before the end of the year. And we've got some breaking news for you now, because we're hearing that AJ is in talks with Jake Paul over a deal for a heavyweight fight in Miami next month. Of course, the YouTuber Paul has already fought the former heavyweight champion of the world, Mike Tyson, and beaten him. And he's now in talks with Anthony Joshua with a view to the two of them fighting in Miami next month. We'll keep you posted.
Eddie Hearn has pushed back on that. Eddie Hearn also confirmed the fight, saying that it will be contested under Queensberry rules, not as an exhibition. He specifically ruled out modified rules, like larger gloves or shorter rounds, saying they'll use 10-ounce competition gloves, agreed rounds, and fight under the standard professional boxing framework.
Sources telling Ring Magazine, Anthony Joshua, your man, and Jake Paul are finalizing a deal for a December heavyweight fight in Florida. True or false?
I mean, the gun was jumped a little bit and fired early. There have been conversations. For us, we were flirting with the idea of having this little 8-round fight this year. Not with Jake Paul, by the way, because he was fighting Gervonta Davis.
Yeah, that's no.
But we were going to go on a other card somewhere. You wouldn't have really heard of the person we were going to fight. But AJ wanted to go through the motions, wrap the hands, and just gear up to what is really in the works with Turki Al-Sheikh, which is 2 fights in 2026, and that includes Tyson Fury. That's the plan for Turki Al-Sheikh. We received a phone call from Nikisa Baldirian, from MVP, who, by the way, we've spoke to a few months before talking to us about the fight, and he said, look, would you want to fight Jake Paul? And I said, listen, I don't want to just be a publicity muppet for you, you know, telling everybody that you offered the fight to Anthony Joshua. If you're serious, we can discuss the numbers, and if there's a chance for us to run out in December and, you know, take care of this bloke and get him out of the boxing world and make several tens of millions in the process, of course, we will consider it. And that's basically where we are at now.
And do the numbers stack up?
Of course, I mean, like, you know, it's difficult to have this conversation. I think sometimes you just need to be as honest as possible.
He told Sky Sports that they're not interested in exhibitions. If Paul wants to fight, they are having an actual fight at a contracted weight. That said, Hearn has also cautioned that the deal isn't done yet. He describes the chances as 50-50, saying there are still a lot of conversations to be had.
I think it's extremely dangerous for Jake Paul. You know, I've got the general feedback is the boxing world saying, please, AJ, go in and evaporate this young man from the boxing world so we can all get on as normal. You've got Jake Paul fans thinking bizarrely they can beat Anthony Joshua. And the most bizarre thing out of everything is that Jake Paul genuinely believes he will beat Anthony Joshua. I think that's the only reason we're going to see this fight. But I truly believe you're going to see it at the beginning of 2026.
Hearn described Paul as crazy enough to pursue the fight, even though Joshua is a legitimate heavyweight monster, pointing out the huge payday awaiting both combatants. However, he emphasized the brutal risk of mismatching the inexperienced Paul against a seasoned AJ, calling it a catastrophic mismatch that could end Paul's career, literally or figuratively.
Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua 50-50 fight, what do you make of that?
Yeah, I just said in another interview, great if it is. I mean, if it is, then you've got no problem seeing it. But when AJ, I mean, decapitate's a strong word, but you know, when he renders Jake Paul unconscious like he did to Francis Ngannou, don't then say, oh well, it was Jake Paul. Do you know what I mean? I mean, when AJ beat Francis Ngannou, Ngannou just had a fight that could have gone either way with Tyson Fury. Then AJ poleaxed him and everyone just said he's just an MMA fighter. Do you know what I mean? Jake Paul's not Francis Ngannou. But, as I said before, if you want to see Jake Paul exit the boxing world, make the fight.
However, Hearn has acknowledged Paul's strategy to call out pro boxers who bring in a huge payday.
Let's do AJ ever so quickly. I watched Jake Paul the weekend. I feel a bit dirty saying that because I'm not a fan of his, but he did say after the fight that he's sort of having DMs or he's dropping text messages to AJ. They're having a chat about a potential fight. What's your view on that, Eddie?
Well, look, he's calling out Gervonta Davis, who is a 135-pound lightweight, and he's calling out Anthony Joshua, that's a heavyweight monster. I think Jake Paul is crazy enough to fight Anthony Joshua because the money would be absolutely obscene. It's a catastrophic mismatch that people would tune in to watch because it would lead to the end of Jake Paul. Hopefully not literally, but it's that dangerous that, you know, it's a fight that I don't think should really happen, if I'm honest. I would say about Jake Paul, and I've said this in a couple of interviews today, I do think you start after giving him a margin of respect. You know, I think this guy is going through the motions, he's putting the hard spars in. He just went 10 rounds with, yes, a washed-up fighter, but a former world champion that did train for that fight. But they're very clever in terms of the opponents that they pick. They're not going to gamble unless the money's out of control. And it wouldn't surprise me if Jake Paul, wanted to move forward with an Anthony Joshua fight. Honestly, AJ's coming tonight. He's not exactly looking at Jake Paul going, oh, that's my dream opponent. No. Would he go in there and give him a hiding for, you know, a massive chunk of money? Probably. I'd be saying, yeah, go on. I'd like to see it.
Simon Jordan has acknowledged that despite his criticism, the Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul fight could actually be good for boxing in some ways. He admits the matchup will attract massive global attention, bring in millions of new viewers, and create huge financial opportunities for everyone involved. Jordan has pointed out that boxing is also a business, and a fight that blends a former heavyweight champion with one of the biggest digital entertainers in the world is guaranteed to draw money, media coverage, and mainstream interest. He believes the spectacle will entertain casual fans, generate headlines, and spark debates, all of which keep the sport relevant. While he still questions the competitive legitimacy, he recognizes that financially and commercially, the fight could be a major win for boxing.
This is the entertainment business, and Anthony Joshua is an entertainer, and you can't undo the fact that he won the World Heavyweight Championship twice. And he fought in some great fights.
So why does he need this?
Because he's in the business of entertainment. And if an opportunity is presented to him and someone wants to say that we can monetize this to the huge levels that are potentially available, why wouldn't you? It's a walk in the park.
You see, you're not having Saturday night.
Because I know
many people wouldn't have this.
Well, I'm not having,
because this isn't a proper fight where a Saturday night is.
But I don't think this is a proper. I don't think that I would ever consider having a debate about whether Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul is a proper fight between two bona fide champions. I think Jake Paul is someone that's creating a lot of opportunity for himself and using sport as the anchor for it. And will I watch it? No. And do I value it? No. But when I'm asked to be confronted with a fight between two legends' sons and then get involved in all of the nonsense that goes around it, I don't buy into the nostalgia.
Simon Jordan also targeted the Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. fight, arguing that the entire promotion relied heavily on nostalgia rather than genuine sporting merit. He said the matchup was being sold on the legacy of their father's legendary rivalry in the 1990s, instead of what the fighters had actually achieved in their own careers. Jordan criticized promoters for weaponizing history to mask the fact that the fight didn't make sense competitively, especially with Ben moving up in weight and Eubank Jr. coming down dangerously. Meanwhile, Simon argued that this matchup is a blatant cash grab, not a serious competitive fight, a mismatch between a former heavyweight champion and a social media star, which he believes undermines the integrity of boxing. Jordan questioned whether such a fight should even be sanctioned, worrying about the physical risk to Paul and warning of long-term damage to Joshua's legacy if he goes down this route.
That they merit the kind of returns that they're going to get for the level that they've operated in their careers. And that's one of my issues around the Conor Benn Eubank fight. This fight over here with Anthony Joshua, I know what this is. No one can dress this up. This is a turd that will get polished into a huge pile of money. And if you know that from the outset, so I don't have any illusions about it. Neither does anybody else. Nobody thinks that this is a real fight. Nobody thought. I mean, Spencer tried his very level best and will never try it again to convince us that Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul.
Yeah.
Well, this is something similar but for different reasons. Anthony Joshua is still a live heavyweight, and if he hits Jake Paul's going to get hurt. Yeah. And some people might think that's a good thing to happen to him, to learn his lesson. But he is also now fighting. He's got a fighter's license. And the question should be along the lines of what Chris Eubank Sr. was raising. Is it right? Is this appropriate that a high-performing supreme athlete like Anthony Joshua, whose only real challenges now are probably in his mind, because physically he can operate at the highest level if he still chose to, should be stepping in against someone like Jake Paul that does not have the skill set to deal with the kind of power and expertise that Anthony Joshua has? And should boxing be sanctioning this? This is the bigger question.
Oh, that's true. That is true. Having said all that, Netflix tell us 60 million households worldwide tuned in live to see Mike Tyson take on Jake Paul. Why would Jake Paul end up fighting Anthony Joshua anyway?
Further fueling the hype, boxing legend Roy Jones offered an unexpected perspective on the Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua fight, one rooted more in caution than spectacle. He stressed the bout must make sense for Joshua both competitively and financially.
I want to change subjects just a little bit here. And Anthony Joshua, there's rumours circulating he could be fighting Jake Paul next. One, do you think it's good for boxing? And two, do you think the fight will happen?
I think it's great for boxing. I think the fight will happen. AJ is 1-0 against these guys that come in to these boxing careers late. So why not? He's a perfect guy to take him out too. He took Ngannou out. Why would he not take Jake Paul out? And for him, he'd probably make more money fighting Jake Paul than he will fight anybody else that he can fight right now. So why would he not do it? I mean, not that he needs the money right now anyway, but if he's going to do something, if you want to get a good win to put him back on the scene, that's a perfect win. You get a lot of money doing it.
Dave Farrar and Spencer Oliver discussed a rapidly escalating public debate over whether Anthony Joshua might fight Jake Paul. These discussions intensified after Saudi boxing Supremo Turki Alalshik hinted at giving the fight the green light during a TalkSport appearance at Wembley. Alalshik confirmed Paul has verbally accepted a bout and expressed his desire for Joshua to dismantle Paul in a 99-1 style mismatch, calling it a win-win test of legitimacy on both sides.
Is it real? Does he really want to smoke? I mean, he's got to be an idiot if he does, because Anthony Joshua, let's use this as a comparison. Francis Ngannou called Anthony Joshua out after pushing Tyson Fury the way that he did, and you looked at that and he went in there and he iced him in 2 rounds. Francis Ngannou versus Jake Paul, you got to go heavily on Francis Ngannou, haven't you? So what's going to happen to poor Jake Paul if he boxes Anthony Joshua, this Olympic gold medalist, 2-time world champion?
Mike Coppinger has raised major concerns about the proposed Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul fight, arguing that Paul's motivation appears to be the massive payday rather than sporting legitimacy. Coppinger reports that negotiations are well underway but still face major hurdles involving broadcast agreements and official sanctioning. He emphasized that Joshua is a huge leap in size, power, and elite-level experience compared to anyone Paul has faced, making the matchup potentially dangerous. According to Coppinger, the commercial appeal may push the fight forward, but it comes with serious questions about Paul's safety, credibility as a boxer, and the integrity of the event itself.
Here's a breaking story on Ring Magazine. Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul are finalising a deal for a heavyweight fight on Netflix in December in Miami. Sources tell the Ring Magazine's Mike Coppinger. What do you make of that?
Well, Anthony Joshua was talking about wanting warm-up fights before going into bigger fights, but look, it's prize fighting at the end of the day, and the way that Joshua will see it, and Matchroom and all the team, the fans won't like this, by the way. But
I don't like it.
No, I don't like it either. But the way that Joshua will see it is as a money grab. He'll see it as an easy money grab. But at this stage of his career, is it a fight he should be taking? Nah, definitely not.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be licensed because it's a really dangerous fight.
Meanwhile, Paul's promoter, Nakisa Badarian, has directly addressed concerns over the physical disparity between Paul and Anthony Joshua, saying, size-wise, we can get comfortable with it. Reported to weigh around 215 to 210 pounds compared to Joshua, who tipped the scales nearer 252 pounds, Badarian argued Paul's strength and rapid growth make the matchup viable. He stressed that Paul's experience at heavyweight, facing opponents like Mike Tyson, and his rising ring development leave him feeling confident margin-wise. Across the boxing world, professionals have consistently expressed concern over the legitimacy, safety, and legacy of this fight. While some acknowledge the commercial opportunity, very few see it as a credible contest.
4, if I'm not mistaken, and 2 of his losses are against Alexander Usyk. Usyk weighed in at 220 pounds for those fights. Jake is not Usyk, a lot more years of experience needed to get to that level, but Jake walks around between 208 and 210, and he fought Mike Tyson at 228 pounds. So I think size-wise, we can get comfortable with it, and I think experience-wise, Jake is learning very fast and growing, and Joshua is a little long in the tooth. So it could be a very interesting matchup, and we're actively discussing it with Matchroom.
Don't put it past Jake Paul. Anthony Joshua, as much as he's a monster, he's got a weak mind, hasn't he? So Jake could end up getting into it because Jake's got everyone eating out the palm of his hand. He's a very clever man. So
you really think he's got a chance?
Why wouldn't he have a chance? Look how confident he is. Mate, come on. Like, Anthony would have all the pressure in the world, and if Anthony didn't do him with the first few punches, he'd start doubting himself in his head because that's what he does. But no, Anthony should win, shouldn't he? But
what do you make of Tyson Fury saying that he's going to put $1 million bet on Jake winning by knockout?
Tyson to leg it, lad. He's retired about 50 times. What's he on about, mate? Just tell him to leg it, and I'd love him. If he walked in here, I'd obviously...
At one point, you were good friends.
I'm still good friends, but obviously if he walked in here, I'd act like I'm not talking about him, but then on the camera I'm talking, you know? Is this not what we're on?
Fair enough.
Is everyone not fake, or no? We all... What are we on here? Are we all acting like we don't hate each other? Like, come on. Like, what?
You're on absolute smoke today.
Shut your mouth, Tyson. Shut your trap.
Former world champion George Groves has also dismissed the idea of Anthony Joshua fighting Jake Paul, seeing no sporting value in it. He argues Joshua deserves meaningful bouts with legitimate contenders, not crossover spectacles. Groves labeled such a fight as low-risk, low-legacy, and insists that Joshua should retire or wait for a mega fight with Tyson Fury, which he describes as the only matchup that truly matters for his legacy.
Is Jake Paul still trying to convince people that he's a legitimate boxer? He's not a legitimate boxer. You've picked someone who was a professional boxer, whose dad was a legend of professional boxing. You might as well pick someone from Love Island or something.
The clash between Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul represents everything boxing is wrestling with in the modern era. The tension between pure sporting competition and commercial spectacle. For Joshua, it is a chance to secure a massive payday and reinsert himself into the global spotlight after setbacks in his heavyweight career. For Paul, it is the biggest gamble of his boxing journey, an opportunity to prove that he can step into the ring with a true elite or expose the limits of his celebrity-built resume.
Jake Paul, you've lost your mind if you think you can go toe-to-toe with Anthony Joshua. Listen, let's not get confused, guys. Let's not get confused. Yes, cool. Anthony, he took a big L with Daniel Dubois. But Daniel Dubois is not no joke, bro. He's not a joke. Do you know what I'm trying to say? He took an L there. But Jake Paul, I got the utmost respect of what he's done, how he's managed to navigate through the boxing world. Like, bro, it's so mad. And I can see this is like a 90%. It's happening. It's positioning. It's marketing already. Like, why would you see Jake Paul go face-to-face with Alexander Usyk if it's not to position for a fight for Saudi. Obviously, Jake Paul's going to fight Anthony Joshua. There's possibly going to be a Usyk against Tyson Fury 3 because obviously the last two were so close. But you never know. It can also be a Usyk against Derek Chisora. Do you know what I mean? You never know.
Do you think Jake Paul actually stands a chance against AJ? Is this fight good for boxing or a total circus? Let us know in the comments below.